said to me on Friday when the Chancellor went, it'll be next week or the following week that she goes. And so it was.
And so it was, yes. I mean, chaotic scenes before she went. But I have to say, Sheila, that this is, in a way, our parliamentary democracy working properly. Liz Truss talked about her mandate on the steps of Downing Street, but her mandate was not from the British people. It was from less than half of the Conservative Party membership in the end. And she tried to push through a pretty revolutionary and radical plan, which, frankly, didn't work, crashed into the buffers. And the Conservative Party has concluded, I think rightly, that there is no majority for this in the country and therefore that she has to go. They have moved with great speed and their customary brutality. There were a lot of flailing around, a lot of mayhem yesterday, but they have got on with it today. And we will now see an extraordinarily fast switch to a new leader, about the fastest I can remember, I think, if it's all going to be done within a week.
It's interesting that you say it's swift. It hasn't felt swift to me, and I know it hasn't felt swift to a lot of people calling my programme every day. I mean, you know, time is relative, isn't it, depending on the mood you're in, I suppose. But why do you say so swift? Do these things necessarily drag out?
Well, the last leadership election went on all summer, if you remember. Endless hustings and charging around the country. None of that will happen this time.
No, I was talking more about the getting rid of than the replacing.
Oh, the getting rid of. Well, was it Ernest Hemingway who asked how he went bankrupt, said, first slowly, then fast.
Suddenly,
well, it's a bit like that. The decay was long and agonising and drawn out, but the end was fast. That was what I was really saying.
Yes.
But I think what we're now going to see is a very, very interesting head-off between a few people. I gather that Jeremy Hunt has already ruled himself out.
Yeah.
He wants to stay as Chancellor, which leaves two obvious figures in the ring, Rishi Sunak and Penny Mordaunt. Now, Penny Mordaunt had a very, very strong performance in the House of Commons this week and is the favourite of an awful lot of MPs who just like the cut of her jib, think that she would be an upbeat, optimistic kind of leader for tough times. Rishi Sunak is, of course, been the man who's been proved right, very, very strong economic credentials and took the country through the pandemic as Chancellor. But he has kept his head down and he has kept quiet. He's in North Yorkshire, I think, in his constituency just now. He may have kept his head down too long and too far, frankly. This is one of those situations where things move very fast indeed.
Well, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because one of the criticisms of Rishi Sunak in much calmer times was always that he didn't quite have the political chops. The economic chops, yes. The intellectual chops, yes. But the rough and tumble political chops, no. And of course, we saw from Penny Mordaunt the other day that she's prepared to go into that lion's den.
That.
Yeah.
She's sure got that. You're quite right, Sheila. If you look ahead, then there must be an enormously strong case for a general election after this. And we will hear a lot of that from the opposition later today, I am sure. Of course, an election at this point wouldn't necessarily completely wipe out the Conservative Party, but it would eviscerate it to a point where it would be very, very hard for it to recover in our lifetimes. So that the stakes could not be higher. However, the Conservatives' way forward has to be now to put together, as it were, an emergency cabinet of all the talents, people from different parts of the party, together under a sort of optimistic and calming leader, whoever that might be, and then just try and trudge on for the next 2 years, make the cuts that need to be made as in as compassionate and moderate a way as possible, and hope, frankly, the market's calm and that something turns up. Because as we know in life, Sheila, very often something does turn up.
And on that question of Rishi Sunak versus Penny Mordaunt, potentially anyway, in Sunak's favour, I was hearing Lord Vasey, Ed Vasey, former Cameron-era minister, describing Rishi Sunak as a technocrat, a highly intelligent technocrat who knows more about the finances of individual departments than the departmental ministers themselves, often when they turn up to talk to him about it. Now, given that the markets, the international markets, are a major player in this scenario that we find ourselves, is that maybe an advantage that he could fly?
The markets would like him a lot. I think one of the problems is that Jeremy Hunt has now established himself as the Chancellor to make things make things better and look after what's the mess that's happened. And if I was Jeremy Hunt, I wouldn't necessarily be very comfortable to have a Prime Minister next door who knows more about the Treasury than I do. And I'd worry that every decision I was I was taking as being second guest
Yes,
from next
yeah.
door. So I wouldn't be surprised if, as it were, the Jeremy Hunt bit of the party doesn't move now to Penny Mordaunt. It may be somebody entirely different, Sir Herbert Oakcake or Sir Hubert Gusset or somebody we haven't thought of but before. There'll be somebody standing in the wings, bouncing around on the balls of their feet, even now saying, "It could be me, it could be me, it could be me." But I think those are the likeliest candidate.
Please let it be Sir Hubert Gusset. Thank you, Andrew. Speak to you later. Andrew Marr, LBC presenter.